This is Realty Talk with Ellie and Gaelan. Welcome to episode 6 of Realty Talk with Ellie and Gaelan. We are back, week 6, episode 6. Hello, Ellie. How you doing?
What's up?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. We wanted to kind of get into a couple topics today. First off, Ellie, how is your day going?
It's going good. How's yours?
It's good. No bag of snakes. All good today?
No snakes.
No snakes. All good. Maybe some snowballs because it's snowing out right now.
Quite a lot of snow.
How are the roads? You said slick?
They're pretty bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm venturing out in about 20 minutes to a showing, so that should be fun. We'll see how we navigate those roads. So the one thing me and Ellie did over the weekend, we did meet, and I'm trying to get Ellie a little more comfortable on talking to clients on the phone, especially clients you have not met before that have, you're trying to kind of qualify them, make sure they're good, make sure they can actually afford to buy a home, make sure that there's someone you want to work with kind of deal. And Ellie, you overall pretty good. What's the one thing that I keep harping on you? What do you do? What's your tendency?
So the funny thing is, this is the exact same thing that my the deputy director at the other place that I work has told me repeatedly that I need to work on the phone. So it is not a new issue. I tend to talk very quickly when I'm nervous.
And what's funny is you do this show and you're totally fine.
Yeah.
And then if people have ever met you outside, you're a normal person. You talk at a normal
speed.
Yeah, oddly, you wouldn't know, but she does talk normal. So I was always saying, I said, have a conversation. Pretend you're talking to John and say, John, what's for dinner tonight? Like you wouldn't say John, what's for dinner tonight? And do you want chicken, steak, or are you gonna pick it up? Me pick it up? I'm like, you would be like, hey, what do you want for dinner? You'd be like, I don't know. You pick, and then you go. You pick, and then you go. No, I don't know.
Sounds about right.
That's my life.
Accurate.
But yeah. So it's all about having just kind of a fluid conversation. So You did better.
A little.
What part? Because we were practicing back and forth, pretending she was calling me, I was calling her, and just kind of showing. And it's funny because me remembering back 8 years ago, I was probably worse than Ellie, to be honest, because I think you can at least kind of carry on a conversation. You were a little bit older. You're starting at an older age. I was young. I had no clue what I was talking about, and I was awful. So where do you think? What do you think is kind of your what you're good at, what you're bad at? I shouldn't say bad, but could improve at.
Room to improve. I think if I get someone who is an easy talker, a conversationalist, I do okay. When I talked to that guy a few days ago, and he was very talkative, and it's very easy for me if someone's friendly to establish a connection. If someone does not immediately come across as friendly to me, my mind immediately goes silent, and then I'm like, oh, I know I had questions that I had to ask, but now all I'm thinking is, why don't you like me? And it just turns into a mess.
When you're driving the conversation.
Yeah.
Like when you're trying to steer it and get it back. And I was telling Ellie earlier, is typically when you're trying to call somebody for real estate and you're trying to qualify, meaning just ask questions to see, kind of their time frame and when they want to move and what their plans are. Are they working with an agent already? Have they talked with a bank? And there's a very linear set of questions that in a perfect world, you would ask them, they would answer. You would ask them, you would answer. Now, obviously, in conversation, people don't just follow a script.
Yeah.
They tend to kind of veer in and out. So what our job is really kind of bring the conversation back to where we want to, again, qualify them and make sure that we're helping them out. Because as much as I would love to talk to everybody for an hour a day, I do not have the time.
Yep.
So that's one thing, is you're always kind of trying to bring it back to center where you can actually kind of have that linear conversation. But I agree, when you're trying to... I don't mind driving the conversation as much. I actually don't care for talkers as much as people that are just like to the point. Because I'm like, cool, that's great.
I got shit to do.
Yeah, to listen to you talk for 5 to 10 minutes about something that really is kind of just stuff more than I would actually need to know. I'm kind of like, let's hurry up and just get through this.
Yeah.
Where for you, it's probably a good thing because it gives you time to think and time to kind of, what should I ask next?
Yeah.
Instead of me sitting there writing down what you should ask and whispering it to you on the side. But you're doing better, and it'll get better.
Little. Yep.
I promise it gets better. So a couple topics that we wanted to talk about today, which the first one was we had one of our agents ask, well, I have a buyer or have buyers that have been looking at a lot of homes for many months, and they've looked at a lot of homes, and they have yet to basically make an offer or commit to making an offer on a home. So what's my recommendation on if you're a buyer that's been looking for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and haven't found a home or whatever? So there's a couple things. One, we're in a market right now that's very much a seller's market, meaning that there's not a lot of buyers, or I should say, not a lot of sellers selling their home, but there are a lot of buyers. So you're probably one of many buyers out there looking for homes. So what you're finding is as a home comes on the market, there's a good chance that it's going off quickly, which gets frustrating because you're in a multiple offer situation. But the worst thing to do is I don't want to say settle for anything, but if you're overly particular, meaning you have a list of like 10 things that you really want in a home, the odds that that's going to happen are very slim. So depending on how quickly you want to move, you might have to, compromise on a couple and then find out your main ones. Okay. Is it in the area we want? Is it roughly in the price range we want? Does it have the bedrooms we want and the size we want? And we okay with the layout? To me, that's number one. Now, if it has a little bit less land, maybe it doesn't have a garage, maybe the garage isn't attached, maybe it doesn't have a finished basement, but you could finish it off, or, a whole host of things that you could do in time, you may have to compromise on them knowing the market that we're in, and you may have to, plan on doing some improvements or things, next year or 5 years down the road. What I find for a lot of people is they get too specific, and then every home they get into it's never worth that much. And the problem is when people start having that mindset where every home they look at is overpriced, that's a very bad mindset to have going into a home. So my suggestion again too is, especially if you've seen a lot of homes, where the homes roughly are on the market, meaning is the home overpriced? Is it roughly in the correct price or in the ballpark? It could be a little overpriced, but that's relative in the sense that, or subjective in the sense how much do you value the home? If you're automatically just assuming every seller is 10 to 15% over market value, you'll never get a home, because that's definitely not the case right now. There are some that are. There's some that go within days. I just had one that we put our office put on like 4 days ago, and I had it under contract over the weekend.
Holy cow.
But the thing was it overpriced? I showed it to one client, they thought so. I showed it to the next client, they paid full price for it. So again, it's very subjective, but it's you're in the situation where not every home is going to be overpriced. Like you got to kind of pick and choose. And I think if you go in with that mindset, you could be in for a long ride. Now, if you're an agent doing that, you do have to stress to the buyer that, hey guys, we're not in a market where we can really be super picky. We got to, we have our price. We're qualified up to $180,000. Let's make sure that if we're looking at homes under $180,000, we know we can make an offer and financially we can pull it off. Now it's just a matter of, do you like the home? If you're like, well, I like the home, but it's only worth $150. Well, who's to say it's worth $150 or $160? That's really for you and the seller to decide. So if you always think that it's low, well, what's going to happen? The seller's like, I don't believe that. And then sure enough, a week later, 2 weeks later, an offer comes in, $5,000 under, $10,000 under the purchase price, and they sell it. And then you lose out another home, because it's like, I think people get a little too picky.
Yeah.
They get too, every home has to be perfect, which is never the case, because if you were to buy a perfect home, that's called building a home. It's kind of like if you go to buy, if you're going to a consignment shop, is the clothes going to be the same as if you bought it brand new off of a rack? If you go to buy a used car, is it the same as buying a used car? No, there's going to be some deficiencies to it. Now, buying a home that's 20 years old, there's going to be some deficiencies versus a home that's brand new, because it's been lived in for 20 years. So I think people also have to have that mindset that it's not going to be a perfect home. You're not going to walk in and not have to touch a thing. It does happen. There's some homes like that. But a lot of people, if you're looking to, depending on the price range, if you're looking at 120, 130, 150, 180, there's work to be done. I would say the homes that are completely turnkey, you're probably talking in the 2s, in the 3s, and that depends too on square footage. You could have 150. You can have a 1,200 square foot home for 150 or 160. That's turnkey. That's possible. You're not going to have a 2,500 square foot home for 150. That's turnkey. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
You'll have a $250,000 home like that potentially, but I think that's where people really got to kind of have the priorities set a little bit more straight, and then the agent has to do their job of trying to convey that to the buyer. Sometimes that's easier said than done because sometimes buyers, they're just stuck in their train of thought, and we have to, obviously kind of handle it with kid gloves depending on who the person is. But at the end of the day, in the market that we're in, if you're a buyer, just know that going in, a lot of these homes are priced fairly well. If they're overpriced, then guess what? Wait a month or 2 months and wait for them to start dropping the price. You're not going to roll in on the first week of the home coming on the market and being like, oh, I'm going to get $20,000 off the purchase price. They're overpriced. So I'm like, well, calm down. They're going to leave it on the market for another month or two and let people come through before they really start dropping. I mean, they can do a lot smaller reductions than a $20,000 price reduction.
Yeah.
So I run into that a lot too, where people just think that the price is going to be overpriced. It's not the case, not all the time. And if it is, just hold on, stick to your guns, wait till 2-3 months come along and they start dropping the price, and then come back to it when you think that it's at a fair price. But again, I think that's a tough strategy to use if you're really trying to bank on that.
Yeah.
The other thing I tell a lot of buyers too is, even if you thought you overpaid by $5,000 to $10,000 and you're going to live there for 10 to 15 years, 20 years, are you really going to think that, man, I spent an extra $5,000 on the home that I don't think I should have spent? No, because I'm hopefully in 10, 15, 20 years, the price has gone way up over $10,000 on that property, and you're going to just make your money back anyway. So I try to have people use kind of a long-term mindset, not a mindset that like I'm losing money in the first week of, or buying the home, I'm losing money. Like, give it a chance. You're not just going to turn around and flip it tomorrow. And if you are, then we really should be looking at exactly what you're doing. Is it the right time to buy, knowing that you're going to try to sell with almost little to no equity in the property? Yeah. I know that's probably something you haven't run into a lot, but you will. So this is a teaching moment for Ellie. But I think, people out there, buyers, pay attention to that. Agents, pay attention to that. I think it's all good stuff. So, and the last thing we want to talk about today, again, we're going to try to keep these a little quicker. Instagram, social media. You're on it. You have a good page. I thought you did well. The one thing I told you was to get it up and running prior to getting your license.
Yep.
And don't put realtor, because you weren't, but you were an aspiring realtor.
Yep. And
shout out to Hannah, who's done the exact same thing. And slowly start building up your following, so day one you can hit the ground running, and it's not like, oh, who's this Ellie girl? Oh, instead I've seen Ellie for 4 months while she's been in the process of getting her license. Yep. So what's your thoughts on Instagram as a platform and as a platform for real estate?
As a platform for business, I'll start with that. I think Instagram is underutilized by a lot of people, and I think it's becoming more recognized as something that you can use for a business. I know that it is, I think, the most utilized social media now of all of the apps. And you can use it. I mean, there's a lot of builders who have it. There's teachers and writers and artists, and it really doesn't matter what you're selling. You can use Instagram to kind of showcase your skills or your abilities, or even your personality if you have a sales type job where your personality is important. On personal stuff, I'm not a huge fan of social media. I think that it can be damaging if someone's excessively using it. I just personally know people who are addicted to it, I guess. Mm-hmm. But as far as business aspects go, it was the first thing that came to my mind of what I could do to market myself before I get out, or even now when I'm very new and I don't have much of a network or a lot of connections in the real estate area. And it's something I've always found social media marketing extremely fascinating. It's what I focused on when I was in school amongst, 7 other majors, but that was what I ended up with. And that's what my final internship was in. And I think that you have a huge, I think Gary Vee actually said something about this, but it really levels the playing field. If someone doesn't necessarily have an opportunity to get out and network themselves in ways that they otherwise could. And I mean, there's people that I follow on my Instagram that I found, like entrepreneurs who are disabled or dealing with stuff that makes it so they can't necessarily hold a traditional type job, and they're still managing to be very successful just through the internet, which I think is phenomenal. And I like that is available. Yeah. Yeah,
I think, to me, it's my most utilized platform that I use, that with Facebook and YouTube. But I think the one, I like how I can intertwine them all.
Yeah.
That I can sync them up with each other. I can use them on different platforms. The other good thing about Instagram, which I find is cool, which we've tried to do, is I try to leverage your stuff the best I can. I have a slightly bigger following, and I really mean this slightly, but you're probably going to pass me at some point.
Maybe. We'll see.
I just find that for some reason, Hannah too. Hannah laughs at me when I talk about my followers versus hers. So, but the way I look at it is, it's a good way where we can cross promote each other.
Yeah.
I do it a lot with Matt Craig. Obviously a friend of the of Realty Talk, and we do a lot of leveraging each other in different platforms. Where you share my stuff, I share your stuff. Now we open it up to a broader audience, and I find that the cool thing about Instagram, which I think is very underutilized in our market, so I really find that we're forefront what's that word called? We're forward thinking on that platform.
I think on the forefront is the.
On the forefront, that sounds right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I look around, I follow a lot of local agents. A lot of them do have Instagram accounts. I don't think a lot of them utilize it as well as they should. I don't want to beat my own drum, but I think I do a good job of it. And I think it's been a very big help for me. I've seen a few other agents get on and they're starting to kind of post what
I think of two.
Which I believe is kind of the right stuff that I think they're posting. There's some that I think are just posting garbage. But just stuff that's not really going to leverage.
Not relevant,
It's not relevant. It's not something that would really grab attention of people. But I think having an Instagram is better than no Instagram. Mm-hmm. But I really think you gotta one is stay consistent. Meaning you have to post regularly. The worst thing is you post and then you post a week later, and then you post 3 weeks later, and then you post a month later, and then you forget to post for 5 months, and you come back and I really try to post multiple times a day if possible. I also try to utilize my stories as much as possible. I try to make my pictures on my page have a theme, somewhat of a theme. I try to we talked about it, editing and filtering photos to make it look a lot consistency.
Yeah. Yep.
I try to post a lot of different things within my business, but it's all business related. I personally don't post anything about my family on there just because I do want to separate the two.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to do that. I just being in the real estate business and being kind of in a public business, I just prefer to do that. I don't really need the other thing is I don't need my kid to get likes. I think that's kind of
I agree.
I can post my kid's super cute, but again, I don't think that I'm really selling what I do or helping people out by posting a picture of my kid. Besides, like I said, he's a cute kid. But I think you do a good job on it. I think you post some stuff. We talked right before this. You wanted to be more consistent.
Yeah, more active.
Yep, and I think, then of course, as soon as she said that, I'm like, okay, this is what you got to do. Ding, 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 ding. And I did a post, and I showed her exactly what to do, and I just said, you gotta have just in your mind, you got to be thinking how to produce content.
Yep.
And then you have to execute it, meaning consistency.
Yep.
But you have to do it multiple times a day.
Yep.
And you have to look for the opportunities. Right before we got on the podcast, what did I do? I took a picture of you behind the mic, which I do at every Realty Talk because that's, I guess, turning into the theme of it, or just I post a picture with Ellie behind the mic saying the new episode's coming out soon. But that's something I just take a photo to do it. Yesterday's podcast, I forgot to do that, but then I ended up pulling the sign down. I took a picture of the sign, which actually looked really cool, and I posted and I posted that. So I'm always trying to be creative and find ways to post. I'm one that believe quality matters, but so doesn't quantity. Meaning you have to post consistently.
Yeah.
Where I could have just been I don't have anything, I'm not going to post. But I'm well, I'm going to find an opportunity. Let me post that.
Yeah.
Let me just post a picture of a mic. Let me post whatever.
Yeah.
And I just try to it's kind of like making your own luck. I make my own content for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would you believe all that's true?
I do. I think one of my biggest fallbacks is the quality thing. I am very particular.
You overthink it.
I do. I'm very particular about the way, and I'll tell you the first probably 3 to 6 pictures that I posted on my Instagram. I won't tell you how long it took me to edit them because I was like, it has to look perfect. The lighting has to be exactly this way. And then I was like, fuck that takes way too long. And I very quickly stopped doing that. But I want everything to look very cohesive when you first click on the page. And if it doesn't, it bothers me very greatly, and I'm trying very hard to get past that.
my thing, I tell Ellie and others, speed over perfection.
Yep.
Meaning, how long did it take when I was like, Ellie, you gotta do posts? I'm like, wait, watch this post. I had it up in about 2 minutes total.
Yeah.
Like upload, wrote all the text, posted it. I'm like, don't overthink it, because
Yep.
I find that quality is subjective. Meaning, if somebody, like, everybody's got a different viewpoint, if it's good or bad, and I really don't care, because
Yeah.
if I overthink it, all of a sudden somebody could look at it and be like, oh man, that was a really cool post, I'm gonna like it.
Yeah.
I don't care. Guess what? You're seeing it. You're seeing that I'm posting it. You're seeing that I'm active. I don't really care if it's too dark or the shadows. I'm like, I'm not trained at all. I'm the opposite of that. I really just kind of learn as I go and trial and error. But I think you're better off just posting something
Yep.
and it flopping versus not posting something and never having the chance to actually, like, you're better off having 1,000 posts. I say 1,000. That's a lot. Say 100 posts and
Per day.
50 of them flop per day. So say you do 100 posts, 50 are terrible, 50 are really good. Well, you made 50 really good. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Where if you made one and you did really well, you did one.
Yeah.
That was good. Granted, you had no bad ones, but you
Yeah.
also lost out on 49 really good ones, and nobody remembers the bad ones. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like when you think about your sports career. Do you look back and say, I remember like a lot? No, you remember your good seasons. Like, I don't remember my crappy. I mean, I remember them, but they're so washed away from my memory that I only really focus on the good stuff. It's kind of like in our business. You focus on the positive, more positive happens. If you dwell on like the negative, the house fell apart because of home inspection. Okay, guess what? Keep moving on. Like, I got other stuff to take care of. It is what it is. You know, it happens. We're just going to keep plugging through. So
they say the most successful people fail more than anyone else. They just don't care if they fail. Yeah.
My success rate in a day is probably like 2%. But that's
Well, look
fine.
at that. It's
But then I look
more
at
than
it.
other people.
I succeeded 2%.
Yeah.
So that's more than 0. So that's good. Ellie, anything else you'd like to add on episode 6?
No, just drive safe, everyone. It's gross outside.
Cool.
It probably will be tomorrow.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, we were going to have this episode out tonight, but Jordy had to go eat sushi. So this will be out tomorrow. And I think that's it. So everybody, drive safe, like Ellie said. And thank you. That is episode 6 of Realty Talk with
Ellie
and Gaelan. We're out.